A new health minister, a new finance minister, former president in prison, a corruption trial pending for the ANC suspended Secretary General, and the deputy SG receiving death threats. There is a lot on the go for the ANC at the moment. Let's discuss this now with political analyst Ongama Mtimka. Ongama, thank you so much for joining us. Let's start with these death threats against Jesse Duarte. I mean, this is really disturbing. It seems it started a few months ago, but just over the weekend, sufficient concern to, I understand, increase her security detail. What on earth could be going on?
So it's a shocking revelation, and it appears that Jessie Duarte herself, confirms that it is in fact the case, that she's been living sort of in fear since April this year, if what she's quoted as saying in the report is anything to go by. It's a very serious cause for concern. In a democracy, you want things to be resolved through democratic means and not acts of intimidation and bullying and threats of killings, which is not uncommon in ANC politics in the democratic period, or in fact allegations of that even before, that through Imbokodo, this was a practice within the party where political opponents are eliminated, or the so-called enemies of the revolution as perceived by a certain group of people. It's concerning that the South African government is failing to act in a decisive way against these kinds of allegations. What is a cause for greater concern for me is failure to investigate these kinds of threats in a way that is decisive and leads to arrests. It would be very unfortunate and tragic that if the state can let these things slip to such an extent that these threats are carried out. We don't want a situation in South Africa where politicians will feel that they are not at liberty to differ with others, or journalists, or in fact other South Africans in general, that they might be killed if they act in a way that some people see as disadvantageous to them.
Yeah. Absolutely. It really is very worrying indeed. I want to move on to this interesting switcheroo that we've seen with Thandi Modise, the former speaker, appointed the defence minister, and the former defence minister Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula now being nominated as Speaker of Parliament. How do you think both women will do in those new roles? Do you think it's a good switch?
I think it's a big missed opportunity to push generational transformation within the ANC and make sure that the politics of the party go beyond this grouping of politicians. It reflects to me a particular entrapment in a particular group of people who see themselves as senior within the party and therefore have this perpetual entitlement to being appointed into office. And because the leaders, such as President Cyril Ramaphosa, for example, comes among them, they just continue to play along. And this is such a debilitating practice within the party. The party is not wanting of great, much younger politicians who could take it forward. We've seen great speakers in Nelson Mandela Bay from the ANC who have really led and showed good experience when it comes to how to run a legislative house. So it's not that the party is lacking in talent, but this entrapment among certain people that are seen to be so senior and command constituencies is such a challenge. And President Cyril Ramaphosa's biggest mistake is going to fail to catapult the party towards a newer, let's say, to another layer of leadership, which is more futuristic, which may not be commanding huge constituencies in terms of voter base, a party voter base, but those people have been trained by the very same ANC in different levels at the subnational level. So it's a missed opportunity in both instances as far as I'm concerned. I take nothing from their potential to succeed, but I don't think that's where we are as a country. We need transformative leadership that can be a lot more forward-looking than people who feel that, or who make us feel that we must continue to pay homage to their sacrifices and they must continue to be, appointed. And President Cyril Ramaphosa is missing a big opportunity here of driving generational and a lot more transformative leadership.
I want to move back to the issue of violence. We were speaking about Jesse Duarte and that it's really troubling that these death threats keep coming her way, and it doesn't seem that there's anything the authorities have done to be able to stop it. We're also very concerned about the violence and the unrest that we saw in July. We saw another arrest today, but we aren't yet seeing this big picture of this group that allegedly instigated this attempted insurrection. Do you really believe that some of the key instigators are deep within the ANC ranks?
Fact of the matter, Sally, is that the ANC is one big crime scene, a monstrous organization that has become a conduit itself for the rise of criminal networks who, dominate regions and provinces. And the network of support that supports certain leaders is allegedly networks of both political players as well as criminal elements. So it's a big concern that the party itself has built this a culture of violence and has allowed it to thrive. Indeed, there's the sense in which this is concentrated in KZN, but it's by no means the only province. We've seen allegations that have not been followed up to their logical conclusions. There's cases of missing persons that are not being followed up because the ANC and state network is entrapped in these deep state relationships. So it's good that there are some arrests that are being made, but I will rest the day that the capability of our state when it comes to investigations, preempting things, acting to arrest high-profile organizers of political killings, or even this recent outbreak of looting. As long as the investigations don't go up to those levels, we will continue to be vulnerable and, in fact, face the risk of slipping into a failed state because the government is failing to lead here. And what makes things worse is the nexus between party political survival imperatives and running the state. And that is a big problem, which, by the way, sometimes makes us ask questions such as, to what extent do law enforcement agencies get controlled and entrapped by these networks? If we borrow, for example, from Jacques Pauw's The President's Keepers, and how states, securocrats, the police and politicians allegedly collude to advance political agendas as opposed to doing fulfilling their constitutional mandates.
Thank you so much for chatting to us this evening. So thought-provoking. Political analyst Ongama Mtimka there.